The moment I walked into the courtroom, my ex-wife laughed under her breath. Her new husband shook his head like I was some pathetic ghost haunting my own failure. But the judge, he went pale. His hand trembled as he adjusted his glasses and whispered, "Dear God, is that really him?" Everyone turned, and for the first time in months, silence favored me. They had no idea who I was. Not anymore. 3 years ago, I was the man who believed in forever. I built her a house, built her dreams, built a future we both pretended to want. Her name was Elise. We met in college. She was the one who pulled me out of my shell, who called my quietness mysterious instead of boring. I was her anchor, she was my storm, and I loved every second of it, until I realized she wasn't loving me back. It started with little things, the late-night texts she hid behind a turned phone, the perfume that wasn't hers, the hollow kisses before bed. But the real discovery came the night I forgot my briefcase at home. I came back quietly, the way a man does when he's used to not being noticed anymore. She didn't hear me. I heard him. In my bed. In my house. The same man who would stand beside her in this courtroom today, Thomas, her lawyer boss. That night, something inside me didn't break. It shifted. I didn't shout, didn't confront. I just stood there in the hallway, watching shadows move across my bedroom wall. I realized noise would only make me weak. Silence would make me dangerous. So I left, quietly, and I began to plan. She thought she'd destroyed me when she filed for divorce 2 months later. She thought I'd crumble when her attorney, Thomas, dragged me through a legal circus, painting me as unstable, unfit, incapable. They took my company shares, my house, and half my savings. They thought I'd lost everything. But they didn't know that I'd already begun building something they couldn't touch. While Elise paraded her new life online, I disappeared into mine. I moved into a one-bedroom apartment above a repair shop, sold what I didn't need, and learned everything I could about corporate law, financial tracing, and offshore assets. Every night I studied case files, precedents, loopholes. I learned how people hide money, how they manipulate valuations, how they use trust funds to bury their guilt under paper trails. And I found theirs. Thomas had been siphoning client funds for years, small enough not to trigger alarms, clever enough to blame on clerical errors. Elisa's name appeared on 2 of the shell accounts. I knew she wasn't just complicit, she was invested. It took 18 months of patience, building connections, and quietly feeding information through a friend at the DA's office. I built the case they never saw coming. When the subpoenas went out, Thomas thought it was routine. Elise laughed it off. And I waited until today. Because today was supposed to be my final humiliation. The last custody hearing for the dog she'd stolen along with my dignity. I could have stayed silent, but no, this was where I wanted them. Same courtroom where they'd stripped me bare once before. Same judge, same smirk on her face. Until he saw me. Until he whispered those words, "Is that really him?" Because the man standing before him wasn't the broken one he remembered. I'd rebuilt everything. My career, my name, my company. I came back as the silent investor who'd bought out Thomas's firm 3 weeks ago. His partners didn't even know the buyer's name until this morning. When the clerk entered the new documents into record, the room shifted. Thomas's grin froze. Elise's fingers slipped from his arm. The judge cleared his throat and read aloud the notice of ownership transfer. The controlling stake of Hale and Mason Law now belongs to, he looked at me, Mr. Daniel Reed. I didn't blink, didn't smile. I just nodded. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Elisa's laugh died in her throat. Thomas tried to stand, stammering something about legality, but the judge cut him off. "There's also an outstanding warrant," I said quietly, sliding a sealed folder across the table. Evidence, bank records, emails, every secret they thought was buried. The DA's assistant entered seconds later, followed by 2 federal agents. Elise turned to me, eyes wide, trembling. "Daniel, what did you do?" I met her gaze for the first time in 3 years. "What I should have done the night I walked away," I said. "I just waited until it would matter." Thomas was cuffed first. Elise screamed, begged, swore I'd framed them. But the evidence was too deep, too real, too perfectly timed. She tried to reach for me as they let her out, as if I'd become her only chance at mercy. I didn't move. When the doors closed behind her, the silence felt like oxygen. The judge stared at me for a long time before nodding slowly, almost respectfully. "Mr. Reed," he said, "you could have destroyed them sooner." I met his eyes. Revenge doesn't work when they still think they're winning.